I was sitting at my kitchen table in Mesa, Arizona, sipping lukewarm tea and flipping through old mail when my phone buzzed. It was a voice note from my daughter, Kathleen. I did not think much of it. She rarely called, and when she did, it was usually because she needed something. I pressed play, expecting a quick message, but what I heard made my chest tighten and my fingers freeze around the phone. Her voice was low, rushed, and filled with irritation. "She is clueless," Kathleen said to someone. "Once everything is signed, she won't not even know what happened. I just need you to keep her distracted. She still trusts me, and that is the only reason this will work." My heart stopped. She was talking about me, and I knew in that moment someone had been lying, and the price of that lie was about to be paid. Before I go any further, I want to take a moment to appreciate everyone watching. To all my loyal subscribers, thank you for always supporting this channel with your time and engagement. And to all new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support is the fuel and the energy that keeps this channel alive. Do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments and share your opinions as the story unfolds. Now, let me take you back to where everything started, because this did not begin with one voice note. It began with trust. My name is Tracy Caldwin, and I'm 58 years old. I have lived in Arizona nearly all my life. I raised my only daughter, Kathleen, mostly on my own after her father walked out when she was 9. I worked 2 jobs back then, administrative assistant during the day and hotel night desk clerk on weekends. Every sacrifice I made with the belief that she would grow into someone who understood love and loyalty. Kathleen is 34 now, married and living about 20 minutes from me in Chandler. Over the years, there has been a strange distance between us that I could never quite explain. She spoke to me kindly when she needed help, money, or babysitting for her 2 children, but something in her tone often felt rehearsed. Still, I convinced myself it was just the stress of adulthood, marriage, and motherhood. No mother wants to believe distance could be deception. I had recently updated some legal paperwork, things like insurance policies and property documentation after my older sister's unexpected passing. Her death shook me badly and reminded me how unprepared I was for the future. I had spoken briefly with Kathleen about making her my primary next of kin, assuming it was the natural decision. She did not argue. She did not ask questions. She just nodded and said, "Whatever you think is best, Mom." I thought nothing more of it, not until that voice note. After hearing her words, I sat still for almost a full minute, staring at the wall like my mind had left my body. Then I replayed it, over and over, the same sentence, the same venom wrapped in calmness. She is clueless. Once everything is signed, she won't even know what happened. I just need you to keep her distracted. She still trusts me, and that is the only reason this will work. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding. Perhaps she was referring to someone else. Perhaps I misheard. But my name was not spoken with affection. It was spoken like a target. I checked the screen. The message was only 27 seconds long, sent 2 minutes earlier. It had clearly been recorded for someone else. My hands were trembling so violently that I had to set the phone on the table just to breathe. Then another realization struck me. If she had intended that for someone else, that meant there was another person involved. Who was she talking to? What were they planning to sign? And why would I not know? The sound of my own heartbeat roared in my ears as I scrolled through the message, hoping for a clue. There was no attached text, no context, just that recording. 1,000 memories flicked through my mind at all once. Elementary school plays, high school graduations, fights about curfews, college bills, late-night tears when she betrayed my trust as a teenager. I forgave her. I remember when she borrowed money for rent but spent it on a vacation with her then boyfriend. I forgave her. Even when she eloped without telling me and only called after the wedding, I swallowed my hurt and forgave her. But this was different. This was calculated. The sun outside had started to set, and the shadows on my kitchen floor stretched long and silent. I reached for my phone one more time, pressed the message to my ear, and listened closer. Halfway through, after she said, "Once everything is signed," I detected the faint murmur of another voice in the background. A man, but his words were indistinct. My skin prickled. The taste of betrayal feels metallic, cold. I opened my call log, debating whether to confront her immediately or pretend nothing had happened. But something in me, something old, something buried under decades of giving the benefit of the doubt, kept whispering that I needed to be smart. I took a breath and made a decision. I was going to find out exactly what my daughter was hiding from me, and I was going to make sure she regretted underestimating me. I did not sleep that night. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, my phone clutched in my hand like a piece of evidence I was afraid to set down. Every few minutes, I replayed the voice note, hoping the words would change, hoping there was some detail I had misheard. But every time, the message came through with the same chilling calmness. My daughter was plotting something, and I was the fool in the center of it. By morning, the Arizona sun was already bright through my bedroom blinds, but everything inside me felt dimmed. I moved through my house in silence, brushing my teeth, washing my face, and making coffee on autopilot. The quiet had weight now. It followed me from room to room, settling into the corners of my chest like smoke after a fire. At around 9 a.m., my phone rang. It was Kathleen. Seeing her name flash across the screen made my jaw tighten. For a moment, I considered ignoring the call, but that would raise suspicion. I inhaled deeply, steadied my voice, and answered. "Good morning, Mom," she said with that artificially casual tone she used when she wanted something. "Are you busy today?" I forced my voice to sound steady. "Not particularly. Why?" "I was thinking of stopping by with the kids later. Maybe we could have lunch." Lunch. With the same mouth that had spoken betrayal less than 12 hours earlier. Something in me recoiled, but I swallowed the instinct. "That is fine," I replied. "Just let me know when you are on your way." She hung up quickly after that. No warmth, no hesitation, as if everything was fine, as if she had not accidentally sent me a glimpse into a world she never meant for me to see. The moment the call ended, I went straight to the drawer in my study where I kept my legal documents. A brown folder held everything I had updated after my sister passed away. My will, my property deed, insurance policies, and beneficiary designations. I pulled the folder out and laid everything on the dining table. If there was anything Kathleen was trying to get signed, it had to be connected to one of these. I scanned my will first. Kathleen was listed as the primary beneficiary to my home and savings, with a clause that my grandson, Oliver, would receive a college trust. That had not changed in years. Same with the life insurance. I had named Kathleen assuming a daughter would honor her mother, not manipulate her. I checked the deed transfer papers I had requested from my lawyer, but had not yet signed. A week earlier, I had called Attorney Henson to ask about creating a living trust to make things easier in the event of my death. He had sent documents, but told me I should only sign them after reviewing every section carefully. I had not signed anything yet.
which meant Kathleen must have believed I already had, or she was planning to make me. As I worked through the paperwork, memories began resurfacing like bruises beneath the skin. Small moments I had ignored. Times she rushed me to sign things without reading thoroughly. Comments she made about planning ahead. The way her husband Colin always asked about my house as if he were measuring the walls for his future. My pulse thudded in my ears. I needed to keep my face neutral until I knew who was involved, and I could not let Kathleen know she had slipped. Around noon, she arrived with her children. The doorbell chimed, and I had only seconds to gather myself. I wiped the strain from my expression and opened the door. "Hi, Mom," she said brightly, holding 2 lunch bags and smiling like nothing in the world was amiss. Her children ran inside, calling my name with excitement. Their innocence made the weight in my chest sink deeper. I hugged them both tightly, maybe too tightly, and kissed their heads. But when I looked at Kathleen, I saw something new. Not guilt, not fear, confidence, as if she already believed she was ahead of me. We sat at the table, eating the sandwiches she brought, and she talked about mundane things, her neighbor's dog, her upcoming dental appointment, the price of groceries. I watched her face carefully, searching for cracks. "You mentioned signing something last week. Did you ever finish with your lawyer?" She said casually, while picking a crumb from her sleeve. Her tone was light, but her eyes were too intent. I looked directly at her and lied with the calm I did not know I could possess. "No, I decided to hold off until I talked to someone else about it." Her jaw tightened for a half second, barely visible, but I saw it. She recovered with a smile. "Makes sense. Those things can get confusing." I nodded. "They can." We continued the conversation like nothing was wrong, but a silent understanding began to form in the air between us. She did not know I had heard that message, and I intended to keep it that way until I uncovered the full truth. When she left with the children, she hugged me quickly and said, "I will call you this week." I watched her walk to the car, buckle the kids in, and drive off. The moment the vehicle disappeared around the corner, I locked the door, walked into my bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were cold. My breathing was slow, and my mind was no longer drowning. It was calculating. I reached for my phone and pressed play on the voice note again. This time I listened not to the words, but to the background. The faint male voice behind Kathleen, I recognized it. And that was when my stomach dropped. I knew that voice. The moment I isolated the background murmur behind Kathleen's words, the familiarity of it settled over me like a chill creeping across skin. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks. I replayed the note again, this time with earbuds in and my eyes closed, focusing on every faint sound. Kathleen spoke first, calm and calculated. Then there was a pause, and a man's voice responded in a low tone. I would know that voice anywhere. It was Jeff. My younger brother, the same man who once slept on my couch for 3 months when his second divorce left him broke, the same brother I helped get a job at the insurance firm where I used to work, the same brother who borrowed money from me last year after claiming his truck needed repairs. I had never asked for a cent back. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles stiffened. But before I could fully absorb his involvement, another realization struck me. The tone, the cadence, the confident mumble. I had heard the other voice too many Sundays at family barbecues. Colin, my daughter's husband. 2 men connected to my life through blood and marriage, both colluding with Kathleen in a conversation meant to deceive me. My breath left my lungs in a single, hollow exhale. My hand trembled, but I refused to drop the phone.
betrayal was no longer an abstract threat. It had names. It had faces. And both of those faces had smiled in my home more times than I could count. I stood slowly and walked to the living room window. Outside, the late afternoon sun hung high over the Arizona sky, casting long shadows across my lawn. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I could almost hear my heartbeat echo through the empty room. Jeff and Colin. Why would they be involved? What were they planning? What could possibly unite them in this kind of secret? I forced myself to sit down and think logically. Jeff had always been careless with money. Gambling, investments gone wrong, credit card debt, he carried all of that like a second skin. Colin, on the other hand, gave off a quiet smugness that always unsettled me. For years, he had hinted that owning property was the smartest way to secure a family's future. He often asked questions about my house and my accounts, brushing it off as concern for planning ahead. And Kathleen, my only child, my own blood, the center of this plot. I stood and moved toward my study again. There were files in my cabinet that I had not looked at in months, including older versions of insurance documents and drafts of my will that I had replaced. I needed to know exactly what they thought they could benefit from. I pulled out a box from the bottom drawer that contained correspondence from 2 years back. Inside were letters from my former attorney and some handwritten notes I had made about dividing assets after my retirement. There was also a folder with Jeff's name on it, a temporary power of attorney form that I never signed fully. Back then, he had tried to convince me to list him for emergencies, but something in my gut had stalled me. I opened my laptop and searched for anything recent involving my name, property, or legal records. I checked my emails, my banking activity, and even my homeowner's policy. Nothing looked altered, but that did not mean the plan was not in motion. My mind traveled back to the voice note. Kathleen said, once everything is signed, she will not even know what happened. Those words implied paperwork still pending. My signature held value, and they needed it. The more I analyzed, the clearer it became that their scheme was financial, legal, and intentional. I considered whether to confront Jeff first, but the mere thought of looking him in the eye and pretending everything was fine made my stomach twist. A man who ate at my table, who once cried on my shoulder when his life fell apart, he was now behind my back plotting my erasure? And Colin, he had always hovered around Kathleen with quiet influence, whispering advice into her decisions. I remember at Thanksgiving dinner when he casually joked, "If your mom ever leaves that house to you, make sure you convince her to do it while she's still alive. Saves a lot of trouble with probate." At the time, I laughed it off. Now it sat like poison in my memory. I needed proof beyond the voice note, something tangible, something that showed intention. If they were planning to push paperwork in front of me, they would need a legal route. So, I called the one person who had always handled my documents with integrity, Attorney Henson. His secretary answered and asked if I needed to schedule an appointment. I cleared my throat. Yes, and I want to know if anyone has contacted your office recently about my estate or property, especially regarding documents or access. Her silence lasted 2 seconds too long. I can check that for you, ma'am. While she placed me on hold, I stared at the wall, my pulse steadying with a strange clarity. When she returned, her voice was polite, but the words pierced deep. Your daughter called last week asking about updated copies of your trust documents and whether someone could come in with you to finalize signatures. We told her only you can make that request directly. A slow, cold anger rose in my chest. Not loud, not frantic, but controlled and sharp as a blade being drawn. I thanked her and ended the call. A line had been crossed, and from that moment, their secret was no longer theirs alone. But the final confirmation came not from the lawyer's office, not from memory,
and not from fear. It came that evening just before sunset, when someone knocked on my front door. I looked through the peephole and felt the world still around me.
I stood frozen behind the peephole, my breath caught between my lungs and my throat. The evening light spilled across my porch, casting long stripes across the faces outside. There he was, Jeff, standing with the false ease of someone pretending everything was normal. And beside him stood my cousin Evelyn. Evelyn was 62, soft-spoken, and one of the few people in the family I trusted. She had always been the calm in every storm, the one who remembered birthdays, sent handwritten cards, and reminded everyone to forgive each other. Her presence at my door in that moment hit me harder than if Kathleen herself had shown up. I unlocked the door and opened it slowly. "Tracy!" Evelyn smiled warmly, stepping forward with open arms. "We were in the neighborhood and thought we would stop by." I hugged her, forcing my body not to tense. Over her shoulder, I looked at Jeff. He avoided eye contact. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. They entered the living room and I closed the door behind them. Jeff took a seat on the edge of the couch, while Evelyn settled into the armchair across from him. I remained standing for a moment, studying them. I finally spoke. "Can I get you both something to drink?" Evelyn waved a hand. "I will take water if you have any. It is warm outside today." I went to the kitchen, not because I wanted to serve them, but because I needed a moment to think. Their visit was not random. Jeff knew what he had done. He knew what I had heard. And he brought Evelyn to soften the moment, to mask intention behind harmless company. As I filled 2 glasses with water, I heard Evelyn's gentle laughter in the other room. Her voice carried familiarity, a sound from childhood summers and holiday gatherings. That made the betrayal beneath this visit even more nauseating. When I returned, I handed Evelyn her glass and set the other on the table. "Evelyn," I said as I sat across from them, "what brings you here tonight?" She smiled and glanced at Jeff. "We were having dinner in town, and Jeff mentioned he had not checked on you in a while. I said we should stop by. No reason beyond that." I looked directly at Jeff then. He finally met my eyes. There was a flicker. Guilt? Nerves? Annoyance? I could not tell which. But I saw it. I asked Kathleen, "How is she?" Jeff shifted and cleared his throat. "She's fine, busy with the kids. She said she might call you tomorrow." The room felt like it was holding its breath. I kept my voice steady. "You both must have had an interesting conversation recently." Jeff blinked, his expression tightening before he smoothed it over. "Meaning?" I tilted my head. "You tell me." Evelyn glanced between us, sensing an undertone she could not yet name. "Is everything all right?" I did not answer her question. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on Jeff. "You were with Kathleen yesterday when she recorded that voice note." His hands stiffened on his knees. Color drained from his face before he masked it with a scoff. "Tracy, what are you talking about?" "Do not lie to me," I said quietly. "I heard you in the background, and I heard what she said." Evelyn sat back slowly, confusion clouding her features. "What voice note?" I ignored her for a moment and kept my attention fixed on the man who shared my blood. I had been silent since I heard it. I acted normal today during lunch, but I know what you and Kathleen are planning, and I know Colin is part of it too. Jeff swallowed hard. His eyes darted to the front door, then back to me. "You are twisting something you do not understand." I did not raise my voice. I did not shake.
I simply stared at him until the silence pressed against his chest like weight. Evelyn spoke quietly, her brows knit in concern. "Jeff, what is she talking about?" He looked down and ran a hand across his mouth. "This is not the place. This is exactly the place. You stood in my home, ate my food, borrowed my money, and you were willing to help my daughter take what I built? You thought I would just sign where you needed and then fade quietly into confusion or dependence." Evelyn turned sharply toward him, eyes wide in disbelief. "Jeff, tell me that is not true." He did not answer. His silence was an admission loud enough to fill the room. Evelyn covered her mouth with her hand and stared at him in horror. "You involved yourself in something against your own sister? With her daughter?" He finally spoke, his voice low and defensive. "It was Kathleen's idea. She said Tracy had already talked about making changes to her will. Colin said it would be safer to do it now in case anything happened. They just wanted me to what?" I asked coldly. "To convince me? To manipulate me? To pressure me into signing documents I had not agreed to?" He looked at the floor. I sat back slowly. "I already called my attorney. Everything is frozen. No one will gain access to anything without my direct presence and voice. So whatever you thought you were about to secure, it's over." Evelyn exhaled a shaky breath, then turned to me. "I had no idea, Tracy, I swear." "I know you did not," I said gently, softening only for her. "He brought you here to hide behind your reputation, to make this look like a normal visit. But there's nothing normal about the trail from blood." Tears gathered in her eyes as she stood abruptly and faced Jeff. "You disgust me." He looked up at her, startled. "Evelyn!" She stepped back from him as if his presence were contagious. "Do not speak to me. You came here to lie under the cover of my name." Jeff's shoulders sagged, and for a moment he looked more like a scolded child than a grown man. But I felt no pity. I stood. "You have 5 seconds to leave my house before I call the police and send this voice note to every member of this family." His eyes widened. "You would not. Try me." He rose slowly, shame and anger warring across his face. Evelyn walked out before him, refusing to look at him. At the doorway, she paused and turned to me. "I will call you tomorrow," she said quietly. "You are not alone." I nodded once. Jeff hesitated, as if he might speak, then thought better and followed her into the night. I closed the door without a word. The silence that followed was not empty. It was cleansing. It was the sound of strength returning to my bones after years of misplaced trust. I walked to my bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and let the truth wash through me. I did not cry. I did not crumble. I simply accepted that the people I loved had mistaken my kindness for blindness. But I was done being blind. Before the night ended, I sent a single text to Kathleen. "We will talk soon, face to face." I did not need to say more. She would know, and she would feel the shift. If you followed this story to the end, I would love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done in my place? Do you believe blood should excuse betrayal? Drop your comments below, share your views, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.